Designers are kind of sort of sit at the intersection between a necessity or an idea and the real world. It's our job to bring these things to life. Sometimes people get the idea or believe that we're inventing, but we're not. We are trying to understand what a client needs or wants, and then we're trying to sort of take that ethereal idea and bring it to life. I'm David Caon. I'm an industrial designer and founder of Caon Design Office, Leica and Actuel. I grew up in Adelaide in South Australia. I studied at the University of South Australia, then was accepted to do a master's course in the UK in the field of car design. And in anticipation of that, I moved to Italy to spend some time there before the course started, where I essentially stayed in Italy and worked in a couple of design studios there for a few years. From there, I moved to Paris to work in the studio of Marc Newson. And after that time, I decided it was time to come back to Australia. And I initially worked for a couple of years in an architectural practice, Woods Bagot. And then I really just realised that I preferred to work in smaller teams and established Caon Studio as it was known then. Initially, we did a lot of work in interior design. While we built up some momentum and some clientele, I continued to consult to Marc Newson Limited at that time. And then eventually the studio grew, and it's now known as Caon Design Office. Caon Design Office is an industrial design practice. We design all kinds of types of projects, whether it's products, furniture, the odd interior design commission. But one of our key specialisations is in aerospace. So we've done a number of aircraft interior fit-outs as a part of that studio. Leica is an enterprise that I share with my friend and business partner, Henry Wilson. Leica produces furniture and accessories, but also it's developing into a creative outlet that he and I have outside of our main practices. The design process can be broken down into stages, and those stages aren't always linear. You can start the ideation phase where you're kind of sketching, and I tend to sort of get excited at the beginning and start drawing straight away. But there is a component that we always like to do, a research component. That might be learning about the client, learning about the business that they operate in, learning about their customers, or another element to the research is, what ideas are interesting for this project. And that might come from looking back in history or looking at art or design or film, anything like that. It can really come from anywhere. So that initial phase, which is a little bit of ideation, a little bit of research, is essentially setting up a project into concepts. At the end of that process, you essentially need everybody to agree which one of those ideas is the one that we're going to bring to life. After that concept phase is done, taking it from the concept phase to the development, through the development phase and into a finished object, there's almost a craftsmanship to that process. And it's much longer than people think that it is. Even a fully resolved idea, to bring it from that point to something that's in your hand or on a shelf, is very complex, and it's always different. It depends on the materials you're using, the processes you're using. So it is always somewhat of a learning experience on some level. In around 2018, 2019, we worked on a project with Woolmark Australia. They engaged us to undertake a bit of a research project to explore other types of ideas that could involve wool. Obviously, wool is very well known as a material that is used in the fashion industry and used for textiles, and they wanted us to just think about how else could we use it. And from that was born the project called Modulo. It's essentially a seat that explores this idea that it could be ultra lightweight, but also this idea of seasonality. And the thinking around that is that what if there was a way that you could have sort of small changes in between the big changes, that we could change the way that the cabin felt. You could have an autumn cabin, or you could have a summer cabin. And so we decided to take the idea of essentially the idea of the dress cover that you have on the seat today and make the whole seat have a dress cover so that we could quickly make these changes and use a more lightweight structure underneath. It's difficult to have a favourite part of the design process because it's really quite circumstantial and it's on a project by project basis. I do love the openness and I guess the excitement that comes with that first few days on a project where you're just putting down your first sketches of how it's going to work. You're sort of stepping into the unknown at that point, and it's quite exciting to have that blank sheet. Then, the realities of the project will come in and you'll have to sort of start to adjust and take all that into account. The other phase that is really quite exciting is, those first prototypes coming back, or, seeing the physical manifestation of your work is, I don't know, it's something like, it's like getting a toy as a child. It's terrific. And especially if things are going in the right direction, then it really is, it's really quite exciting. You feel like, for the whole team, you feel like a sense of pride of what everybody's been able to do. Those two phases are probably the most exciting. I do enjoy the whole process. I enjoy the challenge of that development process. I enjoy that negotiation between all of the different realities and all of the different limitations and restrictions that any project will throw up. So I kind of find that a challenge in itself, and winning that challenge or being successful at that challenge is part of creating a successful product.